Welcome to Corrective Consciousness episode 251, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I want to take this moment to thank everybody for yet another episode. And I am your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
Snez Drunk. I don't know if he watches videos, but he
Yeah, I
does
don't
that.
know what that is.
Oh, okay. He's a pretty prominent, SNES game reviewer on YouTube. So, anyway. But, we're at 251. It's been a long road since 250, where I kicked Lotus permanently off the show. So,
That's true.
how was your week, Lotus?
Well, it's a little weird because I'm reporting from off the show.
This is Lotus's stunt double, actually.
Yes.
He is now a Vocaloid.
Oh, no. Instead of a VTuber, I'm a V podcaster.
Yeah.
Vcaster.
I mean, to Lotus's chagrin, he's actually at home putting his feet up on the ottoman, and I am talking to his evil foil.
Oh no!
But he's sipping on a cold glass of water right now. But anyway, I've been reading a lot of John Constantine Hellblazer lately, like the old Vertigo series. And for anybody who doesn't know, Constantine was basically the rock of the Vertigo line of comics from DC Comics. That was their more adult prestige line. So they would have things like cursing and violence and nudity, but usually it was very tasteful. It wasn't meant to be
it wasn't
pornography.
Schlock.
It wasn't grindhouse-y. It was meant to be like the kind of thing you would get from a rated R thriller movie. It was meant to have a higher quality of darker themes and things like that that would go into sexuality and things like that as well. But a lot of people get introduced to it, and I did through the Sandman series by Neil Gaiman. But there are plenty of other classics in the Vertigo line. There's Lucifer, which has a current series still running. If you didn't know that was a Vertigo line of comics.
Constantine had a series as well.
Constantine had a single season and a movie.
The Keanu Reeves movie, that was a comic book movie.
It's actually a pretty good movie, too.
It's not bad.
A lot of people ragged on it at the time. You go back to it, it's actually pretty good. In fact, they're talking about a sequel right now, which is pretty cool. But yeah, the TV series was apparently really good, too, but it just didn't, the right people didn't watch it, and it was on CW, so... if it were on HBO, it probably would have done really well. But it just wasn't the right place for it. I don't think CW was the right place for it because that's a lot of teenagers are on there, and I think that's more of a more it's less having to do with drama and more having to do with existential themes and things like that. So I think it's for a more sophisticated viewer in general, and I think HBO has that. But Vertigo also had things like V for Vendetta in its line, Preacher, which was also a recent television series that just ended. American Gods just ended. I think Preacher's still going on. But you get the point. Really great series came out of this, and Constantine was basically the central pivot for everything. So essentially what he is he's basically like a noir detective, but for magical stuff, for demonic possession, ghosts, and other magical oddities. So it would be kind of like like a Sam Marlowe kind of thing, like a Maltese Falcon, kind of Humphrey Bogart kind of thing, guy in a trench coat, a dame walks in, and I'm a private detective kind of thing. But instead of dealing with mobsters and crime in the streets, he's dealing with the wretches of hell, versus, and also dealing with the basically what amounts to the tyranny of heaven. Like neither of them are particularly good to humanity in these stories, which is pretty neat when you think about it, because like heaven's too strict and hell is just
It's
awful.
just evil. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And barely anybody can get into heaven. That's also a theme of it. It's like almost everybody goes to hell. So like, it's terrible what is happening there. You have to be very lucky and aspire well to get into heaven. So it's, and everybody kind of like that knows about the surety of the afterlife resents it. You know, they resent the rules of it per se. But I've been reading some really awesome tales, and I've read the first. I'm in the 6th volume, which will get us basically to the mid-90s, the beginning of the mid-90s. And I've just been really loving the noir trappings of it. I've always loved noir-styled stories. You know, I love that, you know, dealing with crime and also like double-crossing the bad guy, and also the revelations that noir always comes with. Usually noir has like, you know, a world gets flipped on its side. You know, during it, you find out about how the world is run differently than you ever thought during these stories. So I just kind of wanted to have a send up to the noir stylings. So I'll just kind of give a quick cinema studies overview of what noir is. So film nerds and historians love to debate whether film noir is a genre, a style, or a particular time and place that movies were made. Some of them argue that you can't have a noir film outside of the post-war era of films.
And one of them will argue, wasn't it like it only counts if it was made by some specific producer?
Yeah, which is
we're not
ridiculous.
we're not really taking that seriously, but one person has tried to argue that with you.
Well, that was my my cooperating teacher back when I was a student teacher argued with me, and I was a cinema studies minor at the time, and I was like, no, you're insane. He said that only RKO Pictures made noirs, and I was like, what are you even talking about?
That's like saying only Americans can make cartoons, and if France does it, it's called something different. It's like, what? Like, it's a genre. My
argument is I showed him a list of...
well, you know what I mean. Cartoons is a medium, genre would be like sci-fi or something.
I showed him a list of the film noir films that have been preserved by Congress as culturally relevant film noir films that need to be preserved forever in America to show as representative of what this was. And his response was, you got that list off of Wikipedia, it doesn't count. I was like, this is a real list. You can look at it. You can look at what the Congress's list is. I'm not, and these are from like Warner Brothers. Like the Maltese Falcon is the start of film noir by a lot of people's like gauge. A lot of people say Maltese Falcon is the first one.
Movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's Humphrey Bogart. He's a fast-talking, dry wit. Is all from that film. All started in that film, and they have this MacGuffin that he's after, and he's brought. The dame walked in and got him in trouble. That's exactly the private investigator thing. It all got started by German expressionism in film and hard-boiled detective novels on the page. So there were precursors to it, don't get me wrong, but this is like the filmatic representation of what this was. Didn't really happen. It didn't all coalesce until about the Maltese Falcon. And of course, there's proto stuff, of course, but there's plenty of other ones. You have really famous ones like Sunset Boulevard. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. That movie. So I love that stuff. But some historians say, if you go past like the 50s, everything is post noir then. Which I don't really especially.
Yeah, like I get what they mean, because wearing those coats and the fedoras was more like what people would actually wear in those times, and in the 50s they wouldn't. Like, I get it, but you could still make a period piece. What's stopping you?
There are a lot of modern tales with noir trappings, and I really wanted to go into it.
And Cyberpunk, I know this is on your list. It beat me to it. Yeah, the entire cyberpunk genre is future noir.
It's future noir. It's noir plus technology. That's all it is. The world is a crap sack, and it's made even worse by technology. It's not made better. I always one of the best quotes that I ever heard was actually in the TV tropes page for Cyberpunk, and it was like transhumanism is hopeful technology for the future that will help humanity. Cyberpunk is the opposite of that.
Cyberpunk is like Deus Ex, where you can transcend humanity, but like at prohibitive prices, or you can be like, or there's cheapo parts that like you are very obviously part robot, like you don't look like a normal human, you got a big robot arm or something. Exactly. So like people will look at you differently, that kind of stuff. In Deus Ex Human Revolution, there were like harvesters who'd fucking kill people, and it's like robbing people for their gold teeth. They would like take your tech off of your body,
or taking people's kidneys nowadays. And
this time it's taking your cyber parts.
Plus, you still might be in pain for all of the. You might have mental anguish from whatever caused you to get those.
That was also Human Revolution. Like in the original Deus Ex, you're part of a government program, and they made you look real nice and pretty. In Human Revolution, you got the shit shot out of you, and you had to undergo emergency surgery. Sorry, man, we had to make you a fucking robot because you were absolutely gonna die. So you feel fine, but you're like, well, now I'm a robot man. Like, what is this?
Exactly. And I a lot of people always comment on my PC background. The PC that I have hooked up to my big TV is Adam Jensen, like on that lounge on that lounge couch, like smoking and drinking a shot, but also having like all of those cyber parts, and people always say, why do you have that? I was like, it is the exact representation of why technology isn't helping you. He still needs he's still in pain. He's still in mental pain.
And not only that,
and
but
they're not helping. His cybernetic enhancements.
Speaking of the smoking and drinking and going further than that, the original Deus Ex goes further than that, is that drugs are often a big part of cyberpunk in general. Snatcher has it.
Absolutely.
Blade Runner, I haven't seen Blade Runner in decades.
Blade Runner is more alcohol focused than drug focused, But you have the right idea. So
Human Revolution in particular is very Blade Runner. The whole game is a yellow filter. Mm-hmm. I love when you first go to your apartments and like the blinds, the automatic blinds open. Like, good morning, Mr. Jensen. It's so good.
Yeah. So I was gonna mention that Cyberpunk is like, is noir. It still has the rain. It still has the dark streets. It's still at nighttime.
Yeah.
It still has the fedoras and the trench coats a lot of the time too. A lot of the time it still does.
Blade Runner does.
Blade Runner has it. Yep.
Snatcher
still has it.
Snatcher's got the coat, but then again, Snatcher's very like borderline copyright infringement of Blade Runner.
It's Blade Runner and Revenge of the Body Snatchers combined.
And the Body Snatchers happen to look like the T-800.
Yeah, and Terminator. I forgot about Terminator. But yeah, what I was gonna say is Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies of all time. It ranks up there with 2001: Space Odyssey is another one of my favorites. And Alien, the original Alien. Those three movies are my trifecta of favorite movies of all time, and it's hard for me to pick which one. I usually say 2001 is my favorite just because it was like the first one.
2001's damn good, but you can't just keep watching that. You gotta wait and be in the mood to watch that movie.
It's actually easier and easier to watch the more you watch it. So
I've only seen the movie once, and I liked like 95% of it. The oh my god, it's full of stars psychedelic bit. I liked it until I didn't.
For most people.
What?
Yeah.
Like, it kept going. Like, the whole crazy rainbow. What? Like, I was into it. And then it didn't stop. And then it didn't stop. I'm like, I fucking get it. His mind is blown. Like, next scene, please.
Yeah, but what I was going to get at is Neuromancer is the beginning of that genre. Cyberpunk. It's a novel. It's by William Gibson, and there's proto stuff before that with Philip K. Dick with Why Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
Even Ready Player One is in this territory, because like
yes,
what a lot of people remember about Ready Player One is like 80s nostalgia, and you're in this super computer land where
it
like,
does have
all this
noir
cool
styling
stuff is there, but the
right.
whole reason they're in there is because the real world fucking blows, so everybody's hooked up to the computers at all time to escape into computer land. And then a big problem with like the whole plot, and I don't mean from a writing perspective, I mean like the main problem of the story is that like a corporation, like a head of some super corporation is trying to get like the key to win this game in the computer, and because like the whole gimmick with the Oasis is that it's like free education and like life outside of your life, and if a corporation got a hold of it, they might start charging for it, and that's like as cyberpunk as shit gets, even though it doesn't look it at a glance.
So they came
up
with they came up with basically Willy Wonka's conceit, like the person who finds it gets to run it or whatever.
And I hope it's not a piece of shit. Well, Willy Wonka was specifically looking like he had standards for who he was looking for.
Yeah, he was looking for
Oasis was anyone who's smart enough. So if Mr. Billionaire Executive gets it, then literally the world is fucked.
Yeah, but getting back to it, Neuromancer had all the drug stuff that you had talked about, and I'm actually going to reread it very, very soon. But Blade Runner has all of that stuff. If you were ever wondering what a more modern, I mean, it's not super modern; it's from the '80s, but it's much more modern than one of the.
It was ahead of its time.
It is noir, but it isn't. You know, it is. It is up there, but I wanted to mention that because Constantine has been so good. I just love the magic and demon world added into this trope. And
even Constantine, by the way, is a very heavy smoker.
Yeah, I mean that's also one of the motifs of smoking, and in fact, one of the main plot points of the movie.
Well, in a lot of noir, smoking just makes you look cool, but like Constantine addresses it as an actual problem. Like he smokes too much.
In fact, the movie addresses it, and that was actually based off the 5th volume, with the one that I just finished of Constantine Hellblazer, where the cool thing about Constantine is the toughest thing he had to face was an actual real life problem amongst all this demon stuff.
Well, that's one thing I liked about the movie was the big interaction with the devil when they realized Constantine might go to heaven. The devil's like, "Oh no, fuck you! Like I've been waiting a long time to get you in hell. We're not letting you die yet." And he like somehow metaphysically like reached into John Constantine's body and just like ripped out the tar from his lungs. I didn't recognize that that's what that was when I first saw the movie, but he just like. He didn't cure him of his addiction to cigarettes necessarily, but he cured him of his horrible decades of physical trauma to his own body.
What had happened was Constantine performed a duty that essentially absolved him of all his sin during life, so he could go to heaven when he died.
Yeah, he took a hit for somebody else.
He made a sacrifice,
which would send him to heaven.
Yeah. He made a sacrifice, and the devil was like, "Oh no, you're not getting away that easy." So he let him live longer, so he could screw up.
I need you to like. I think he said something like I need to give you a chance to prove that you belong to me, because like we both know, you know yourself, you're a piece of shit. Like I need to have heaven acknowledge this too.
So in the comic book, it happens kind of similarly, but actually a lot even more like the Red Harvest, which I've talked about before.
Yeah.
So the Red Harvest is one of the best and prototypical it's one of the examples that you point to for hard-boiled fiction, the stuff that inspired film noir as one of the best things to read, to get started, because tons of movies have been based off of the Red Harvest. Notably, Yojimbo, Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo in samurai form, and then the Fistful of Dollars, the spaghetti western.
Yeah, we've mentioned this before, but
with
spaghetti westerns really are Japanese samurai movies, except with guns instead of katanas.
Yeah, no, and vice versa too. They're reflexive.
Sure,
they feed off of each other. I mean, you can even go as far as to say Star Wars is based off of an Akira Kurosawa film as well.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen it,
Hidden
but
Fortress.
I've heard repeatedly. Yeah, Hidden Fortress, down to the point where R2-D2 and C-3PO are this little peasant duo who just incidentally watches the story unfold. They're not the main characters, but they're there.
Yeah. So I mean, like a lot of stuff is reflexive in that era, and Red Harvest is the prototypical great example because it's phenomenal storytelling. So a guy with no name comes into a town. In the book, he comes into a town similar to Chicago or something, where the entire town is run by three factions of bad guys, of crime syndicates that are all in a cold war with each other. So they're not outright
that's very
fighting.
Grand Theft Auto, pick a faction, old Grand Theft Auto, the top down ones.
They're all in a cold war with each other, so they're not directly fighting. And the cops is one of those factions.
Jesus.
Yeah. And so, the essentially all the bootleggers in this are fighting each other, and kind of they're at an uneasy stalemate because they finally can stalemate because they can finally all make money, but they don't like that the other one's making money. That kind of thing. And basically, the man with no name, the Pinkerton detective, comes in and goes, "You know what? All of you suck." So he starts going in there and saying, "This guy said this about you, and he's about to try to kill you, even though they're not."
Yeah, I remember that in Yojimbo, where both sides are about to all-out brawl and something stop them, and the bodyguard's like, "Fuck."
Yeah. So essentially, the main character comes in and just instigates an all-out war, and all the bad guys kill each other.
That's great. Because in Yojimbo, as serious as the threats were, there was also a kind of humor about it, because each faction hates each other, but each faction's troops are made up of just
mooks,
peasants that got a hold of swords, so none of these guys is actually ready to fight. So when it came to the brawl that was about to start, both sides are literally rattling their sabers at each other, except instead of sabers, it's katanas. Oh, I'm gonna do it. Oh, I'm gonna go after you. You better watch out. I'm gonna cut you with my sword.
None of them has a spine.
Yeah, and then when something cut them both off, each side retreated, and was like, "Whew!" "Oh, you got lucky this time. Oh, I was just about to. Oh boy!" It's like that, and that's the kind of humor of it. Both sides are actually very dangerous, but not a single one of them is well, a couple of them are actually proper fighters, but most of them really aren't.
So, something similar happens in the Constantine, the comic book version of Constantine with this, the lung cancer thing. And this was written by Garth Ennis of The Boys fame and Preacher fame. So his workings through The Boys. What happens in it is essentially he conjures up three different high-level demons and tells them that he's going to make a deal with all three of them individually, but the others don't know about it.
Oh, nice.
And so he promises them his soul. each individually. So when he's about to die from the lung cancer, and
they have to fight him to collect.
They all come to collect at the same time, and they're
That's
all
great.
like, "Oh fuck!" And
this is why you talk.
Here's the thing: demons do not give in or let anybody, get the high ground.
Well, especially because they're all contractually obligated to a soul at this point too, so they wouldn't.
So what they do is they say, we either have to start an all-out war in hell and let heaven win because we're all going to destroy each other, or what we're going to do is basically become Constantine's guardian angels.
Oh, that's great.
So they have to keep him alive so he can't die from this point on, or else hell gets destroyed.
That's fucking crazy.
So politically, he's tricked them into protecting him for the rest of his life.
It's a good thing that hell works that way, by the way, because have you ever read, like, not Disney's Aladdin, have you ever read Aladdin?
No, you have, though. I know.
Yeah, because like old school Aladdin is quite different. There are two genies.
The ring and the lamp,
the ring and the lamp, right?
Yeah.
But like you know the part where Jafar gets a hold of the lamp and he's like, "Haha! Now I'm the boss," and he puts the palace somewhere else and everything. When the equivalent of that happens in Aladdin, and Aladdin just gets sent out somewhere, he's like, "Ah, no! Now what do I do? Oh, wait a minute! I have the genie of the ring, which bad guy doesn't even know about. I still have a genie. Can you believe this?" So he summons the genie and he's like, "Yo, genie, undo all the shit the bad guy did." And the genie was like, the lamp genie's way more powerful than I am, dude. I'm not fucking with him. Sorry, can't grant your wish. And he's like, "Oh shit." It's like amazing.
Well, this is great because also after this, Constantine starts smoking again because he knows they'll
oh, that's ridiculous.
Just heal him.
He actively chooses to get back into it.
He puts the last drawing, the last scene of that book is he puts the cigarette in his mouth and gives them all the finger. It's great.
Oh, that happened in the movie too. When he slowly started to ascend to heaven, he like unconsciously, or maybe with the last bit of his consciousness, gave the finger to the devil himself.
Yeah. But in the movie,
he
actually like learns something and starts chewing on gum by the end of it. But that's like the last scene of the movie.
This is jumping a little bit, but in the movie that was pretty clever. But that actually reminds me, I'm jumping a little bit, but not even dealing with the plot, but dealing with just that aspect of Police Knots, where you play as a chronic smoker.
Yeah, I wanted you to go into this game too.
Yeah, the gimmick of Police Knots is you're also a noir detective. Like, oh, the dame walked into my office. Like that straight up happens. But your whole thing is you were shot off into space, but like got lost, Space Odyssey style. You just went flying off from your ship, which is a fucking death sentence. Except magically you were found and rescued, but it was like 20 years later. So,
yeah, but even that's a blessing because like a lot of his colleagues are still alive. They're just older.
But like it was horribly traumatic for him.
Sure.
And so like to this day, he's like, could we do anything that does not involve flying in a rocket ship? But his thing was like the world has changed since he left it because it's been 20 years, and so he gets ready to smoke, and one of his co-workers is like, whoa, not in this town of the world, smoking is banned. So you're like, I'll just put the unlit cigarette in my mouth then, and just so I'm halfway there. So you have to just kind of fudge it.
He at least has the mental
I'll just hold the cigarette with my mouth. Shit, why haven't they invented vaping yet, even though it's the future?
Well, they even have vaping in the past, according to Kojima. With the fifth one, he has a vape pen.
Oh, that's kind of funny.
He has a vape cigar in Metal Gear Solid 5, which
nice.
is supposed to take place in the 70s or the early 80s.
It would have to be there because Peace Walker was in the 70s, so 5 is either still in the 70s or it's just touched the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. It's I really love and that game is primarily based off of Lethal Weapon, which is also a very modern take on noir as well. It has a lot of the same
thing instead of one guy.
Yeah, but it has a lot of the original movie has a lot of the same trappings of noir, with the setup and the kind of dealing with the underbelly of the city. The later movies get wackety schmackety. They're good and funny, but the first one in particular is very much a noir movie. It even has the saxophone going on,
Yeah, and Snatcher did too in its opening theme.
Yeah, so I wanted to mention that, and I also wanted to mention a recent movie that I had watched that is one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. Red Letter Media did a review on this, and that's how I found out about it.
Blade Runner.
I heavily suggest that you do not watch anything about it if you have any interest in watching it, because the conceit, I'll just tell you what the conceit is, and it's really interesting, but the everything else about the movie is fantastic and really, really good.
What movie is this?
The Kid Detective is what it's called.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And so the Kid Detective, the conceit is basically if you were a kid during the 80s and 90s, there was a series of books called like Encyclopedia Brown.
Yeah, I read those back in the day. I never read the Hardy Boys, but I read Encyclopedia Brown.
Yeah, and the Hardy Boys is like the same kind of
it's
thing,
the older
and also
version. Yeah.
Billy Quizboy is kind of based off of this trope from Venture Brothers.
Quiz Boy.
Yeah, or even Rusty Venture or Johnny Quest is kind of like this too. But
I'm a smart person who can solve crimes.
But
I'm a kid. I'm relatable because you're a kid too.
Yeah, it's the trope of the kid detective. But in a lot of like Encyclopedia Browns, it's like, oh, I wanted to find out it's the case of the stolen glasses, or it's just like
it's
something
not something you would call the cops about. It's like there's a real problem in school, but it's not enough to warrant an adult with like a force behind him.
Yeah. There's a cheating ring at school, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Like low stakes.
Who stole my lunch money? Yeah.
So the main character is one of those, and he tells the story about in his youth, he like a lot of people in his town looked up to him because he was a really smart kid that would solve these mysteries all the time. But then, like, he's also still that person as he grows up, but he keeps solving really stupid bullshit things.
Yeah, like I saw like clips from the Red Letter Media discussion where you have this little like 8-year-olds like I think somebody at school might have been doing this or whatever, and he's like 30, he's just still taking on these cases.
Yeah, exactly. And it is one of the best movies I've ever seen, honestly. It's funny too, so this is a really good entry point into noir, because it is noir, but it's also comedy, so it's easy to get into that way.
Yeah.
But it's also the dramatic elements are really, really good, and they hit you in the right places. So it does have, it's not just a comedy, it has dramatic elements that are really serious and good. I really recommend this movie. It is exceptional, and it's a really good example of a neo-noir, because it's kind of parodying and also like a love letter, kind of like a Shaun of the Dead kind of thing.
It's a parody of it, but
it's a parody, but it's also a love letter
example of it.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, one of the better examples of it.
It's one of the best examples of it. Kid Detective is a really great modern noir,
But by the
example.
Way, can I just say, by the way, like everybody knows the Hardy Boys, but like I don't know how many people knew about Encyclopedia Brown. I didn't expect you to bring that up.
Well, my brother read them, and they were really popular. Slightly before our time, I think.
Well, no, I mean I read them in elementary or middle school or whatever, but like I didn't know that was as wide of a thing that it apparently was.
It was a popular
just that weird like not Hardy Boys series.
It was a popular. There were like a billion of them. There
were a bunch, yeah. There's some stuff that I remember from them to this day that have ruined certain things for me. Like, I know this super karate move, and I'll prove how effective it is. I'll touch this person, and it'll just knock them right out. And Encyclopedia Brown's like, yeah, I call bullshit on that, because if you pass out standing up, you'll fall forward, not backward. And it's like, oh! And so now I can't unsee it. Stuff like that. And I forgot if I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but when people shed the single tear?
Yeah.
And it's on the outside of their eye, because it looks really good in profile.
But that's not how it works.
That's not where your tear ducts are,
yeah,
and
exactly.
That's ruined me for life.
Well, those are the main examples that I wanted to talk about. I know, Lotus, do you have any more that you wanted to mention other than the Kojima ones?
I was gonna say I really don't have much movie noir experience. I saw Blade Runner. This is bad for 3 reasons. 1, like 15 years ago, so my memory of it is pretty bad.
You also 2, saw one of the incomplete cuts, probably.
Well, that's where I was going to go with this. 2, I saw it on TV, so a long movie was made even longer with commercial breaks. And 3, it was the bad cut with the intentionally poor voiceover from Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
I need you to go hunt some skinwalkers down. Skinwalkers, he called them. That was his term for the role. It's like, oh god, like that's how he said it. Like, skinwalkers, he said, or whatever it was. It sounds like he's joking, like it's a joke read, but then they kept it.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't know if you've seen that cut with the bad voiceover, but it's bad voiceover. What can I say? So I really don't have much movie noir experience, unfortunately. The closest I've come is seeing like in Murder by Death, they gather all of these parodies of detectives you've heard of. Like, there's a not Miss Marple, there's a not Hercule Poirot, and there was a not Sam Spade. So like the parody of the Sam Spade character is as close as I get to a movie noir guy outside of a bad version of Blade Runner I saw when I was a fucking kid. The games, there's Police Nuts, there's Snatcher. I have seen Constantine, although have you ever had this phenomenon where you turn on the TV and it's like the same episode you've seen 3 times before? Why can't I ever see a different episode? Why is it this one? Yeah. So like with The Matrix, whenever The Matrix Reloaded is on, I turn it on during the highway chase scene, which is an incredibly fortunate coincidence.
Because it's like the best part of that movie. But
thank God.
Also, I might add...
Constantine, it's the part with Peter Stormare, which is also the best part of the movie, but that's the only part of the movie I see anymore.
Lotus, I might add that Matrix has a lot of trappings of noir as well, especially the first one.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
It's also cyberpunk, so it definitely.
That's true. That's true.
But I mean, there are a lot of games out there if you want to seek this out. I mean, especially these days. Grim Fandango.
I'm trying to think of more games. Oh, duh. Yeah, Grim Fandango is noir to the point where it like directly uses the plot of an actual noir movie, which the name I forgot.
Sam and Max is a
Sam
fairly...
Max, obviously much more comedic, but Grim Fandango is definitive, probably video game noir. Like, you know what cracked me up, by the way? Do you remember, or have you ever seen what it says on the back of the big PC box for that game?
No.
It was something like, if any of you have any complaints about how like half of the characters in this game are smoking, just remember that they're all dead. And it's like, yep. Because like everybody smokes in this game, but everybody is a literal skeleton.
Good point. Another big one would be the Max Payne series.
That's true. I have played the first one, but that was also 100 years ago.
The second game, especially.
I hear the second one's brilliant.
The second game is like noir. The third one is one I haven't played, but I really have a strong interest in.
Alan Wake is like debatable. It's obviously not Max Payne.
That's Twin Peaks and Stephen King, if you ask me.
It just makes me think of it though, because you have the voiceovers of the book, like, and then you got closer. Like,
I think that's more thriller novel.
It is
horror. Yeah. I mean, this is all. There's all crossover points and Venn diagram stuff, but we're looking for more pure examples. I would say obviously the Blade Runner video game, which was recently re-released on GOG.
Yeah, I still gotta play that. I should probably watch the movie to like better prepare myself.
Yeah, the System Shock games are very cyberpunk noir. Like the whole conceit of System Shock 1 is Neuromancer, basically.
Yeah, like the System Shock 1, where you're like a hacker trying to break into some company thing, and they're like they arrest him with cops with guns, like stormtroopers, just bust into his apartment out of nowhere, and they're like, well, you know what? You're a really good hacker, so if you could do this and that for us and help us work on our super project, there might even be a military-grade chip in it for you. And then Shodan happens.
That's basically the conceit of Neuromancer, in that they give him a military grade hacking device, but it also is a time bomb as well. So he has to comply to being lawful, and
System Shock wasn't that bad. It's just that the project they made became a monster.
Yeah. Well, any other ones? I mean, we have The Evil Within is on here. I didn't put that one. Or the
I haven't played that.
Yeah, The Enemy Within.
What is your name? Sebastian something?
Yeah, I don't know. But there are quite a few. I mean, there's Discworld Noir. I mean, very obviously, the Fables
this is
games
a weird...
are like that too. Because
here's a weird one to bring up: Deja Vu.
Oh yeah,
kind of.
No, not kind of. It definitely is.
You got the aesthetic for damn sure.
You have the Hotel Dusk games. Those are definitely noir.
What's the second one called? Like Last Window or something?
Last Window, yep.
Yeah, I have the first one, but the second one was like not released in America.
Yeah, you had to get a European copy. The second one is absolutely worth your time, though. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. There's actually a lot of visual novels that fit into this category.
I was just trying to think of visual novels. I'm sure there are 1,000 of them.
There's a lot. I mean, I mean, Snatcher is amongst the best, but
yeah.
I mean, the Suda 51's ones would fall into.
I still want to stream that, but I would have to put all of the watch at your own risk warnings in the world on that one.
Yeah, trigger warnings. Yeah,
warnings and just plain like
advisory,
not safe for work warnings.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very. I was gonna say gritty, but grimy by design.
And probably the best post noir film that I can honestly drudge up. If you really want to see like a masterpiece in cinema, watch Chinatown. It is by the worst director in terms of
director's a piece of shit. Yeah,
he's a piece of shit, Roman Polanski. But he managed to like the big tragedy of it is he made one of the best movies of all time. A couple of the best movies of all time, unfortunately.
Well, it's like the Weinstein Company. Like, look at just the awesome movies.
All the '90s stuff. All the '90s stuff. Like all the Miramax movies. Like like Clerks, Dogma. Like all the Kevin Smith stuff. All the Quentin Tarantino stuff. All that New Line Cinema stuff was very similar. You know, for all that really great '90s stuff that you go back to.
Actually, now that you mention it, I don't know how noir this gets. Maybe there are pieces of noir, but it's more of like a gangster vibe. But that era of Quentin Tarantino movies.
I would say that's more of the hitman genre, is what they call it these days, like the '90s hitman genre. It does have stylings of it, but I wouldn't call Reservoir Dogs a noir film.
I actually haven't seen that one, but I was thinking, like, again, I'm stretching this one, but I was kind of thinking, like, the Bruce Willis segment of Pulp Fiction.
I was actually going to say the only thing that I would point to, it would be that exact one. So you are correct. That one is absolutely noir, but only that.
Not the whole movie. Yeah.
That Bruce Willis one is noir from the point where he's picked up from the boxing match. That's all noir, and then it stops being noir at some point.
In the climax.
Yeah, definitely. But it is very noir. Absolutely, I would say. and maybe in Reservoir Dogs you could talk about Tim Roth's like training to become the informant. That part is pretty noirish, but eh, it not as much if you ask me. But yeah, I hope we gave a pretty good overview of like some really good stuff within this genre and a lot of the things that cross over and kind of like
actually,
feed into it.
One thing I forgot to mention, by the way, about Police Knots, I was so focused on the smoking vice, I forgot to VICE vice. I forgot to mention that like the overarching plot of the entire game revolves around drugs and pill form.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, like drugs aren't just there; they're like the focus.
Yeah, drugs and alcohol and smoking are at the forefront of.
Not quite as much alcohol in Police Knots.
Yeah, but like it's one of
Snatcher,
one of them. One of them in the motifs.
Around.
Yeah, exactly. But actually, it's illicit food in Snatcher.
By the way, I can't believe we both completely slept on this one. L.A. Noir.
Oh well, yeah, that.
What a brilliant game!
More noir than that.
Every time I try trench coat and fedora detective.
Yeah, every time I find that game very difficult. I don't like it as much as I think I should.
I used the walkthrough, so I don't give a shit. I just enjoyed the ride, so I found it very enjoyable.
See, I'm playing it naked, and I don't like the tell system. It's too subtle for me.
The only thing that really bugs me, because like you can get through a level whether you pass or not, with like few exceptions. They'll just admonish you or something. What I find a little bothersome though is if you like doubt when you should have accused them of lying with contradictions or something, or vice versa, you'll get like disproportionately angry, and you're like, that wasn't what I meant by that choice. Like, I didn't mean to scream at them.
That's why what I don't like about it is like it's hard for me. Yeah. The descriptions of what you're going to do and say are vague, too vague for what I was intending on doing. You're absolutely hit the nail on the head as to why I don't like it.
Yeah, like doubt versus lie. What do I do? Like lie is if I have direct contradictory evidence, but if I choose wrong, then I totally flip out and blow the case.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes they're one meets the other too, like or vice versa. They're very similar.
Or if you didn't find the evidence on the way here, so that
there's
particular
like shades
question
of meaning.
Is just unsolvable. Yeah.
There's just shades of meaning in it, and I don't like that. Anyway, we should get on to fan stuff then.
Yeah, we have a couple comments from Living Corpse. So this is regarding the toxicity of social media. No, what was it? Oh, no. I think this is when we were talking about Shermie for King of Fighters 15, and you were talking about people being thirsty for Shermie on social media. And Living Corpse says, I'd rather Twitter or any other social media be thirsty than toxic.
Yeah, thirsty a lot of times is being horny without being creepy. Which it tends to be when you say thirsty, it tends to be a more positive outlook, and I think that is a good outlook. Like sexuality is a part of life, so to not celebrate it or talk about it at all is disingenuous to our experience as humans. Yeah. So we need to have sexuality, but we also don't want to demean people and have it be the only factor that's important.
And by the way, this comment reminds me something I forgot to bring up in RC this week. But we mentioned last time that Shermie got her character trailer. Well, Chris got a character trailer for KOF 15 as well. Chris is also part of Team Orochi. And what's particularly notable about this is that one of the parts that was featured in the trailer was that Chris and Shermie have a pre-fight interaction, which that concept had not yet been confirmed. So characters who know each other might have a little, like a different intro, if they can interact with each other. So Chris is just like, Shermie, she's like, hi, they just wave to each other, and then the fight starts. Like, I love when games do that. So that's just kind of nice.
Nice.
So our other comment that we have is also from Living Corpse regarding our discussion on Mercury versus Venus, which is the true hell planet. it's Venus.
Yeah.
Here, Living Corpse. I mean, it's both, but it's Venus.
Venus is
Here,
way worse.
Living Corpse has some information that I was not aware of Venus, which makes it even more of a fucking shithole. If you didn't think that literal acid rain was bad enough, that hotter than Mercury is bad enough, because that's bad enough. But apparently, Venus has air pressure on its surface comparable to the water pressure of our ocean's depths. So even a slow, gentle breeze would be like having a brick wall slam into you. So, the crushing of our ocean's depths, but dry and hot instead of cold and wet. So you can enjoy melting while on fire, while being crushed.
That sounds awful.
Fuck this planet. The air just kicks your ass. And then the heat kicks your ass. And then the rain kicks your ass. Like, man, that planet is unsalvageable. I don't know what you do.
Oh, wow. That sounds literally like the worst place.
I did not know about the air pressure. I knew about the other stuff, but like, so we got the only thing that I don't know if it's terrible is just like the land. Is the land somehow terrible as well? Just inherently, the air's bad, the heat is bad, the water is bad. What about the land? You got some way to fuck me over with the land too? I don't know. Like, it's not a gas planet where you just get sucked in. I don't know. Who knows?
Wow.
Fuck Venus is the point. That place sucks.
Yeah, sure.
Mercury sucks, but Venus sucks. Okay, and those are our comments, and we do not have any fan-submitted questions this week. So, there we go.
I would like to pose a question then.
Okay.
To get the juices flowing. What is a musical act that you have recently gotten into? They could be contemporary or not, but you recently basically just discovered, within reason, that you have found that you are really into.
Well, this isn't that recent. This is like a year or two ago.
No, I would say that's pretty recent in terms of, for music, for old fogies like us, for 35-year-olds. I think that's reasonable. Yeah.
Well, you might have heard of these guys. Have you heard of Two Cellos?
Oh yeah, Two Cellos is awesome. They play like
these guys are wizards.
Yeah, you could describe them since this is your.
Yeah, book. I mean they play a lot of contemporary tunes, and it's one of those things where it makes me think of like old-timey, I want to say England, when they heard instruments being played for genres of music that they didn't expect, like when you have a bunch of classical instruments and you play like Two Cellos, you play fucking like Thunder Horse from Thunder Horse is Metalocalypse. I keep confusing Metalocalypse with real life. Yeah, when they play Thunderstruck by AC/DC, it's like, but you don't do that with cellos. With a cello, you sit down and calmly accompany an entire orchestra. So like, it's stuff like that. It's not like I didn't know that cellos could make that sound. It's that I just never pictured cellos being played in that way. Or they're doing Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. They cover a surprising amount of ground with only two cellos. Now they've gotten bigger and more popular. They were like an opening act for Elton John for a while, but I think they might be on their own at this point. But I mean, now it's not just two cellos. They got like a drummer and stuff for extra flavor, but the main feature of the act is still two cellos being played like super hardcore and in ways that you wouldn't expect. So look, I've already said they've done AC/DC, they've done Nirvana, but they have a bunch. They've done Highway to Hell, I believe. They've done a bunch of stuff that's readily available on their YouTube channel that you just wouldn't expect all this out of two cellos. It's like you sit there. Cellos are so big you can't just carry them like a violin or something. You just sit on a chair and play your cello like standing it up vertically, and you're leaning around it. How do you play fast music with a cello? And how do you carry an entire piece of music down with only two cellos? Well, it turns out it can be done, and it's amazing.
Well, I would actually suggest to you that you listen to Too Many Zoos. Have you ever heard of them?
No. I thought you were going to say like the Two Harpists. There's two like sisters, I think, that play harp. Also awesome.
No, they are basically a street band from New York that feature a percussionist, a alto sax, like the really big sax.
Sure.
Maybe that's, I forget what kind of saxophone that is. It's a gigantic saxophone, like a really deep sound. Saxophone types. But yeah, it's really it's the baritone. I'm sorry, the baritone sax.
Okay.
Really big, huge one, and a trumpet player. And they used to basically just play at subway stations and stuff.
I was
for
going to
change.
ask about that. You get off the subway. Oh, there they are. Throw them a couple bucks or something like that.
But the guy who plays the baritone sax is basically the front man of the group, and he plays it unlike what they would ever teach you how to play the baritone sax. He puts
Sure.
he makes all kinds of noises that are not typically intended from that instrument while he's playing it, and essentially they call it acid brass. It's basically techno, but without any techno. The percussion that they do there is on analog, drums, bass drums, and stuff like that, like on the street, and it's really awesome and entertaining. They also dance while they're doing it. I'll link you one of their best songs because they are really cool. I really enjoy a lot of their stuff, so I just figured you would appreciate it since you are into Too Many Cellos, because it's kind of similar, kind of
Too many cellos. It's only two of them. It's okay.
two
Although,
cellos.
but regarding playing things how you wouldn't expect them to be played, you've seen this as Spinal Tap, right?
Oh yeah, I love it.
There's one scene in the movie that ends with one of them taking their electric guitars because they're hardcore metal players or whatever, or like rock and roll players, but they're doing that one. I never remember the names of classical music because they're all called the same thing.
Sure.
They're all called symphony and a number.
Yeah.
So I don't fucking know. But like it was that track that goes like da na 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 na.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And that's how the scene ends, because that was the joke. You don't play that classical tune with that instrument. Like now we're becoming more aware that yes you can, but at the time like that was funny, like in the 80s. It's just amusing to me.
Well, I was going to say that my pick for this is a 2-person band called I Don't Know How, But They Found Me. It is a quote from Back to the Future. It is the front
with
man,
the very beginning, who was hunting them down?
Libyans. The Libyans find
okay.
him, yes. But yeah, I Don't Know How, But They Found Me is a 2-person group consisting of a percussionist and a guitarist / bassist. And they also do electronic backings to it. But the frontman was the songwriter and guitarist of Panic at the Disco, but he wasn't the frontman of that band. But you could tell he was like one of the big talents of that group, because I Don't Know How But They Found Me is amazing, like early 80s style like synth rock, if I could point to it in any which way. I really want to recommend the music video on YouTube, Do It All the Time, by them, because it is really cool. It has like it sounds like Gary Newman kind of stuff, like Cars, but like even rockier and jazzier. I recently have been listening to a lot of their music, and everything is gold. I'm also going to link that to you because I think you'll like it. But I got both of their vinyls because I thought it would be awesome to play on my record player down in my basement. I just wanted to rave about them for a little bit because they're really awesome, and I certainly like them better than Panic at the Disco. I was never a gigantic fan of them, so I definitely recommend it. And I also recommend Gary Newman. I hadn't really listened to a lot of Gary Newman before, and his songs were actually sampled in one of my favorite techno songs, "Where's Your Head Out" by Basement Jaxx. I always kind of like was wondering why I didn't like any other Basement Jaxx songs. I was like, this song's great, and then I found out that it was sampled from a Gary Newman song, and I was like, oh, it turns out I just like Gary Newman. So I like went back and I listened to a lot of his stuff. It's awesome. So I definitely recommend it. Any finishing touches that you want or commentary there, Lotus?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, that is the show for this week. We want to thank all of our fans who contributed questions, which you did not do. You only commented. Feel free as well if, I know coming up with a question is kind of daunting or whatever, something that you haven't thought of. Please do think of something that you can link us, but also, if you want to react to the question of the week, please, we'll take some music recommendations for sure. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and Soundcloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. Helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much everything, but make sure to throw me a PM or DM or direct message, whatever, to let me know how you know me and who you are before you do so. All right.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting in conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
Well, that's just lovely. We'll catch everybody on Tuesday then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.